This month marks the 30th anniversary of the Dragon Ball series, the classic anime that probably a lot of people know, even though they might not know what anime is. Same thing with Pokemon. It's kind of one of those things that introduce people to, Japanese culture and stuff like that. It introduced me to the whole shonen fighting anime style, and at first I was kind of like meh to it. Then I got into it a lot, and then I fell out of it because it was just like, man, this is just a lot of grunting and groaning and like just overpoweredness. But, growing up, I never really played Dragon Ball games. But today, I picked 3 that I rummaged through, and I am not going to tackle any fighting games because there is a literal shit ton of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and GT and all those other ones for fighting games. It is an insane cluster bomb of fighting games. But I decided to instead go for a more interesting route, and these are the best 3 that I found. First up, we have Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure for the Game Boy Advance. Now this chronicles the beginning of the whole series in Dragon Ball, where Goku is trying to find the Dragon Balls with Bulma and fighting the Red Army and Emperor Pilaf and all that stuff. And it's great. It really feels like a awesome Super Nintendo game that never was, that was rebirthed on the Game Boy Advance. Great action, super neat style. Repetitive. It's an action platformer, but it just really brings me back to those Super Nintendo days of just fun little platformers, fighting monsters. Very characteristic. It really does feel like a love letter to the anime, or at least it feels like they had inspiration where they wanted to make something really fun and something that captured, the whole Dragon Ball craze, but in a small, compact little form. It's really, really cool. Not a lot of depth to it, of course, and it's pretty short and, I would say fairly easy, but it's pretty cool. I think it's a rad little game that I missed back when the Game Boy Advance was in its heyday. Next, we have another Game Boy Advance game, which is Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku 2. Now, this one follows the arc of basically Trunks coming back from the future to defeat the androids and all that kind of stuff. You start off as Goku, not Goku, his son, Gohan. You start off as Gohan, and you fight some monsters, and then you see Trunks, and you're like, I'm from the future, and you're like, weird. It's a top-down action RPG, kind of like Zelda, although the way it looks, it's kind of very much like Golden Sun. But you fight monsters, and you get power-ups, and you level up and do some grinding, and go through these story arcs. And it is not as good-looking as Advanced Adventure. I would even say it looks kind of bad. It's one of those games where the pixels aren't really refined. They're more like... The Game Boy Advance... It felt like a portable Super Nintendo, but a lot of the games, even though the technology inside was a little bit more advanced than Super Nintendo, a lot of them look like garbage, and they're very pixelated and just look terrible. And this is one of those instances where it just didn't look good. It kind of looked a little off. Not the worst offender graphically, but it's not exactly the prettiest. That said, if you're looking for a Zelda kind of game with stuff in it that has Dragon Ball characters that you might like, this is a game! Next, we have Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans. Now, as it would imply, this one takes place during the whole Vegeta arc, coming to Earth and wanting to destroy Earth, basically, and while Goku is off training in basically the Netherworld with King Kai, the rest of the gang, like Krillin and Yamcha, are basically training in order to defeat basically these aliens along with Vegeta and stuff. And so it is very much a 3-man turn-based RPG. Very similar to, Final Fantasy and the like. But it's fairly decent. And it's another one of those games, I should mention it's for the DS, but it's another one of those games that, while it may not have the graphical prowess of other games for portables during that time, like for the PSP, it's very simplistic. It looks like a very shiny a good version of a 16-bit game, if you know what I mean. It is very in between. It's not quite PlayStation era, and it's not quite just simple enough to be 16-bit. It's kind of somewhere in between. But it looks nice. It plays nice. The one gripe I have against it is what I have with a lot of RPGs is it's not that you need to grind. It's that the game forces you to grind because there's a lot of random encounters. It is the one thing that I really did not while playing this game. Everything else is really cool. You know, I mean, again, a simplistic RPG with Dragon Ball characters. It's not gonna surprise you in any way, but it will make Dragon Ball Z fans pretty curious if they want like a Dragon Ball RPG that actually came over to America, and it's just yeah, and there's no way to skip these battles either. It's just an insane amount of random encounters.